Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough when mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Juju, put it on the poll, please. Do these Swifties think that's how all offensive linemen retire? At Le Batard Show. Happy Greg Cody Tuesday.
Yeah.
Happy 305 day. Going to do this a little differently for a little while, till at least the playoffs, I think, where we put the local hour second and do some other stuff first. But I am telling you that I came in here today, and it appears that Greg Cody and Stugotz have arrived at done with Jason Kelce. They didn't think that he should have gone out with a 40-minute retirement speech. A lot of people were made emotional by that. I was made emotional by that. I missed my brother watching Travis cry because his brother was crying. But Stugotz and Greg Cody, it feels like, are done with the Jason Kelce experience.
I mean, it's a center. He took 45 to 50 minutes to give a retirement speech. It was a Hall of Fame speech. He thanked his band coach. I mean, what are we doing? And poor Brian Kelly, because he pointed out a part of his career where Brian Kelly became his college coach. And he says, you know, Brian Kelly, that was a big move, him becoming my college coach, not because of Brian Kelly, but because of a strength and conditioning coach that Brian Kelly brought with him. I felt terrible.
He did say not because of Brian Kelly. He did point that out while thanking
went out of his way.
His band coach.
It was a bit much, Jason. It was a bit much. I mean, dying Lou Gehrig took a half a minute to give one of the most famous speeches in the history of sports by saying he's the luckiest man on earth.
Yep.
You know, Jason Kelce is taking almost an hour to give his own living eulogy. It was just, I thought it was a little weird, a little the ultimate look at me, Louie. You know, great career, congrats. Take 7-8 minutes. Be concise.
Save something for the Hall of Fame speech. I'll also say this about Lou Gehrig, okay? That thing would have been 15 seconds, wrapped up in 15 seconds had he not taken a couple of pauses because he was emotional.
Right.
He was dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And imagine Jason Kelce's Canton speech. It's going to take 2 days. Yeah. It's going to be like a 4-part miniseries. His Canton speech.
I think if anything, you wait to vote for him, right? Because you're like, we can't do it this year.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you don't want to have to endure that monologue by him. It's unbelievable.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is Jason Kelce's Canton speech going to be a 4-part miniseries? At Le Batard Show. This isn't the way I thought I would have this going today. It was I thought it was a nice moment. It's always nice to get, if you're an offensive lineman, to see them get shine. I do imagine all the other offensive linemen are confused and jealous. About
Creed Humphrey. I mean, can you imagine what he is thinking right now? The band coach who taught him how to toot his own horn. I mean,
okay, I want to ask you guys who's the most famous offensive lineman ever. I want to ask you who's the most famous center ever. And I also want to ask you who's the most beloved athlete in Philadelphia history by consensus, because people like Allen Iverson were polarizing. They weren't by consensus. I think Dr. J might have been by consensus popular. Chase Utley. I may have that wrong, though, because Dr. J always handled himself with a great deal of class, but being black at that time in America, or at any time in America, isn't exactly the most fun experience as an athlete.
Is Iverson in that conversation?
I mean, I just put him in that conversation.
He has to be in
but
that
I said,
conversation,
But I said
right?
he's polarizing.
It's a little bit ridiculous, but a fictional athlete, Rocky.
Yeah. It's not that ridiculous. Put it on the poll, please,
Statue.
Juju, at Le Batard Show. Most beloved Philadelphia athlete ever. Dr. J, Allen Iverson, Jason Kelce, Chase Utley.
This is low-key a sad list when a fictional character is your top athlete.
What is Chase Utley doing on this list?
Right.
He was
Reggie-
very
he
popular.
was
So popular.
How about Reggie White? I mean, he's probably in that conversation, no?
Mike Schmidt. He was really popular.
The fact that we're putting Chase Utley in the same conversation with Allen Iverson is crazy.
I think you should put Bobby Clark up there, too.
I think you're underestimating how famous Chase Utley was and how beloved he was by that team and by that fan
I mean,
base. He
if we're
was
saying that about
huge.
him, we could say that about any all-star for any team.
No, he
No,
responded to
it's
Matt's
different.
letter.
What was your guys' reaction yesterday to the most famous center? And answer my question here, because I guess John Madden would be the
I think Jason Kelce, and this may be hyperbolic, is the most famous both center and maybe offensive lineman ever. The people that I was trying to pull are guys like Madden and Deerdorf, guys that became famous because they just stayed around the game and were calling important games later in their career.
He's famous while playing, yes. Yeah, it's a big difference. You're right.
Yeah,
Madden
but-
became famous after he retired.
The next level is just infamy, in which Richie Incognito gets in the conversation.
I have never seen an offensive lineman get the send-off I saw yesterday. That is a first for me in all the time I have covered sports, never mind Hall of Famers. But a center? A center's among the most anonymous positions that you can find anywhere in football. Like when I ask you, the most famous centers ever, do I have to go back to Mike Webster and,
Yes.
and Dwight Stevenson?
Yes.
And I know the podcast and the Taylor Swift thing certainly helps, but I think Jason Kelce might have been in this conversation last year before any of this entered the conversation.
I'm looking up most famous centers here. Jim Ringo from way back in the day. Alex Mack. A lot of names I've never even heard of, and I'm old. Dermontti Dawson.
Oh, he was
Let's
good.
see. Let's see. Mike Webster. Dwight Stevenson is number 4. Number 3, Mel Hine.
Huh.
Love you, Heine. Chuck Bednarik.
Yeah.
I think he was a Philly guy too. And then number 1 is Jim Otto, a Miami Hurricane, I believe. How about that? Number 1 all time.
For a long time when I was a kid, I thought Tim Ruddy was Rudy because he went to Notre Dame.
Right. Makes sense.
Not as egregious as Chris Cody thinking that Franco Harris was named Frank O'Harris.
I also thought Cecil Fielder was a position.
What?
A position in baseball.
plays Cecil Fielder?
He thought that the Cecil Fielder
Like a
was-
roaming, shallow outfielder.
Right near center field, Cecil Field.
Stugotz,
That's my boy.
I thought some of the numbers, and we will talk about this in a little bit with Pablo Torre and Mina Kimes, but I thought some of the numbers yesterday, we are obsessed with the quarterbacks, the real famous ones in that sport. And what happened with Russell Wilson yesterday was interesting as the numbers started pouring in, because this has been an evolution over my lifetime in sports. The total obsession with money. And so when you trade for Russell Wilson and you're the Denver Broncos and you trade with the Seahawks and you trade for a 1, a 2, and a 5 in 2022 and a 1 and a 2 in 23, and what you get from Russell Wilson is 2 years of the Broncos at $124 million. And that now on the he is on the cap in dead money. He is $85 million for the Broncos, which is more than what were the previous biggest numbers, 2 of them in dead cap money. Aaron Rodgers at 40-something million and Matt Ryan at 40-something million. The 2 of them before this were the most dead money. So this qualifies as one of the greatest mistakes we've ever seen in professional football. Trading for Russell Wilson. He was 11-19 in 30 games, and in less than 2 years now, I think this is from Warren Sharp, 2 teams are paying him $111 million to not play. And in a salary cap sports,
amazing.
that will cause you a great deal of problems. You see what's happening with the Dolphins right now, right? The Dolphins' best window was when Tua was cheap and they were able to load up on defense. But now they're losing Christian Wilkins.
They have to pay Tua.
Yeah, because they've got to pay Tua. And so in a salary cap sport, this is a monster mistake. I don't even know where else you go to find a trade that ends up being as bad in results as this one. You got 5 high picks or 4 high picks and a 5th rounder, and you get an 11-19 record out of the deal.
It's a terrible situation in retrospect. When they made the deal, I didn't think it was that terrible. He was a very, very good player for a long time in Seattle. He was only 33 at the time of the trade, which they're thinking we've got another 5 years of this guy still in his prime. It didn't turn out right. It turned out to be an awful deal for Denver, but that's in retrospect. I didn't think it was bad at the time. Maybe others did.
It's a bad deal, obviously armed with hindsight, but it's going to be interesting now because Russell Wilson can go to whatever team he wants to go to, and he can go there for cheap. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what teams are going to want Russell Wilson to be their quarterback.
I saw that Pittsburgh was the betting favorite the last time that I looked.
That's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
Because I think last year it flashed. You were also worried about the Sean Payton trade, too, especially after that game against the Dolphins. But something happened within that locker room where Sean Payton found out how to get the most out of Russell Wilson, which was being super conservative. And Pittsburgh always finds himself in these games where they could really use the type of quarterback performance that Russell Wilson had towards the tail end of last year. So I think that's a great spot for him.
It would be an upgrade for them and for him.
Well, most guys would be an upgrade for the Steelers.
What would his slogan be there, though? Steel up. Steeler Nation. Let's steal. I don't know. We're just spitballing. What
Let's
would it be?
steal.
Steel country. Let's ride. No?
Steeler
I think
Nation.
let's steal.
Let's steal.
Yeah.
Let's steal.
Let's steal.
Let's steal is good. And Stugotz would love it, obviously.
Kidding me? I'm in.
Stugotz.
Stealing it.
We need
Steel
to,
curtain. Let's open. I don't.
Let's
Let's
get the dust off you.
Steel curtain call.
hard hat and lunch pail.
Ready to work. Steal out.
Steelers wheel.
Just keep workshopping. I think.
I wish you
So
had.
you have time.
I wish you hadn't. I wish you'd thought about
just-
all of these things
No, let's
before
do it
you went
live
to
on
a
air.
microphone.
We'll figure it out.
No, I don't think we are going to figure this out. I'll sit here and wait if you want. Let's see if we can figure this out, because I think it'll take the rest of time.
Let's steal.
Yo, Pitt, let's get lit.
No.
Nah.
Black and yellow.
All right.
Black and yellow. Black and yellow.
a good
Wiz
song.
Khalifa.
That is shocking that he knew that.
cannot
believe
That is the most
Thank you,
shocking
everyone.
thing since there was a Magnum condom in his wallet.
I love I love that
The
song.
bar's pretty
I couldn't
low
say I love
for
it.
What's
like
another song you
a
like?
hip hop
know.
reference from 12 years ago.
Amazing,
Still-
Greg.
Still,
I've never been so impressed.
he came
Black
in
and
here
yellow,
today
black
dying
and
to
yellow.
talk about Bob Dylan.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Bob Dylan. Christopher and I both saw him the other night, and if no one has seen a Bob Dylan concert, I'm warning you right now. Consider this a warning in pulsing neon.
Hold on, before you warn me.
Yeah.
What? He's mumbling and really hard to decipher and not much of a show?
Actually, his voice was not the problem. He was in good voice, and I think the mumbling thing is overrated. I could understand the words. The problem is he plays exactly what he wants to play, and does not play any of the hits you want to say. Any of the familiar,
Hate that.
beloved songs that you would sing along with as an audience, he does not play.
Because I was thinking that, but I'm not a huge Bob Dylan guy, and my dad knew one of the 16 songs that he played.
Wow.
Right.
Like, I'm telling you, I looked back a couple times because we were sitting pretty close. I look back, and I'm like, maybe it's just me. I'm young. I'm not in the demo. I look back. Nobody is mouthing the words. It's not that they're not standing up or dancing with any energy. There's no singing. It is just people staring forward. He did not address the crowd at all outside of a couple, thank you, after a song when they were clapping.
Well, in fairness, he is in his early 80s. Physically, I don't think he can get around anymore. He sat behind a piano almost the entire concert. And it's just another problem with a Dylan concert is that everything is dirge-like and mid-tempo. There's no quote-unquote rock and roll songs that would get people off
Where'd
their
he
seats.
play, by the way?
He played at the Broward Center for the Performing Arts.
Really?
Cody has filed this complaint before at artists. He says, "Hey, legend, play the hits."
Yes.
And I think most people would agree with that. I don't think that most people pay all that money to go to a concert and have your whimsical artistic desires and your new stuff be something that overtakes the hit list. You can play some of your artistic whimsy, but
you can weave them into the set list.
You have to play the hits.
But it's not like you're going to see like a big pop act where they're not playing the hits. It's not like Bob Dylan's hits or big sing-alongs for the most part. You're going to that room to be in the same room as Bob Dylan.
No, Bob
you're not
Dylan,
going there to sing along.
That's where you're wrong. Bob Dylan thinks you're going to that room to be in the same room as Bob Dylan. Greg was not going to that concert to be in the same room as Bob Dylan. He was going to hear the hits.
I'm telling you, the concert my dad curated of Bob Dylan hits on the way to the concert, I was in the car. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And my dad's like, he's not going to play any of these songs. My dad knew what we were getting into.
I am going to put a curated Bob Dylan, the Bob Dylan concert you never heard. The best Bob Dylan concert you never heard. I'm going to put that in Spotaway, and I'm going to cure a list. But let me give you an example of what you just said.
Hee Haw 3 should do some cover band Bob Dylan stuff.
This is a good idea.
Here's the thing, and fellow Hee Haw 3 are over here. When the Hee Haw 3 performs in concert, we have to play the hits.
Right.
We have to play Puka Nakua.
That's true.
Viva Greg Cody.
Not going to come see
there's
you.
just there's just certain hits you have to play.
Yeah. You're right.
So that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Billy informed me this morning after listening to the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody.
Thank
it
you.
is a very popular podcast, and he informed me this morning that Erlene, your wife, Chris's mother, that she yelled at Chris Cody in a way that no one has heard before on the podcast.
I wouldn't say yelled. She put him in his place. She was very composed. She did not raise her voice, but she got Chris in line very quickly, I would say.
I was proud of her.
I went to New York a couple weeks ago, and I got back, and I just made a comment of, because when I went with my parents when I was younger, we stayed in the middle of Times Square. And I just noticed, having been to New York a few times now, that is just not the place most people would stay. And that's all. I was never complaining about the trip I had. My parents are great. We went to bunch of games. I'm just saying what I was being critical of is where we stayed, and my mom ran with that, thinking I was being critical of the entire
being
trip.
Entitled.
Yeah. I was just like, let's next time maybe East Village or, Chelsea.
Okay. All right. Talk about entitlement. Your mother was reminding you that we saw a Broadway play, the original Lion King. We saw a Yankee game. We saw a Met game. We went to Little Italy. We went to Chinatown. We saw the Twin Towers. We did everything you could possibly do.
You ate at Tavern on the Green. You were a big wrestling fan, so you stayed in the same hotel as the wrestlers to run into them in the elevators.
And these are all things you could have done if you stayed in the East Village.
Put it on the poll, Juju at Le Batard Show. Is Times Square a good place to stay?
No.
My father proposed to my mother at Tavern on the Green.
Wow.
And, she says actually, and I think she's got this right, it seems like it would be right, that he still hasn't actually proposed. That the way that it came out was he asked her why it is. No, that's not. He asked her why, if she wanted to have kids, and when she answered and then asked, why do you ask? He pointed a fork at her and said, why do you think I'm asking?
So romantic. They didn't get married then.
Sounds more like a threat.
At least it wasn't a knife.
So they didn't get married?
Are they
Explains
married?
Le Batard.
Go ahead and play the Puka song.
We got to play this in concert. His name is Cooper, good at running curls. But when his hammy got a tear, he saw Puka standing there, his blade diminished. Hostile take over. Nakua hopped into the car. McVeigh has maybe found a star. And then Matt Stafford threw him 25 and 2. Oh, there's a brand new kid in town out of BYU. They call him Puka. Puka Nakua. His quarterback is not named Tua. Yeah, he is Puka. Puka Nakua. Fantasy assassin, it's the time to cash in. Yeah, Puka. Don't need the glow.
You don't know the songs to it, do you? Greg. Your rhythm is off, and it doesn't feel like you know the words to it.
It's been a while since I've sung it.
So good. That's your Mr. Tambourine Man right there.
Yeah, thank you. You got to play it. That's our
have-
blowing in the wind.
Have you heard, Stugotz, the song about your book? Have you heard that yet? I don't think you have. I don't think you were here the day that we made the song about your book. Listen to this.
My book's unwritten, but still it's for sale, 'cause I closed the deal. I'm getting to it, but so are my friends. We all know how this ends. Staring at the laptop before you, open up a browser window, let your fingers hunt and peck for StugottzBook.com. Only $29 for the hardback, so close you can almost taste it. Pre-sale for incomplete work, watch the money roll in. No one else is gonna profit, only I will rake it in. No one else could get away with this shit. Click the link now to obtain it. Best of luck as you're explaining to your friends why you're purchasing. You're all in on the grift. Yes, it's my name on the cover. That means I get full credit. No one knows if this thing even comes out. Click the link now to obtain it. Best of luck as you're explaining to your friends why you're purchasing a book that's still unwritten.
I asked Stugotz 10 days ago,
Flattered.
when is the forward due? And he says, I'll let you know by Monday at the latest.
Yes.
I'm still waiting.
Right. StugottzBook.com for pre-orders right now. It is killing it. I appreciate it. You have till May 1st for the forward, by the way. Found out yesterday. How about that? May 1st. Plenty of time for a writer like you.
Billy, what's wrong?
I just all of it. I just don't understand. You know that like this book will not come out if you don't do it, right? Like it's not like he's relying on everyone else to write it for him. If everyone else just says no, there's no book.
Well, luckily everyone has said yes, except for Dan.
You're not writing anything for this book, right?
Well, no, I wrote most of the book.
No, you did not.
didn't write most
You
of the
wrote
book. You
questions.
Well, they're my takes. I mean, he's just taking my takes, my personal record book, and he's putting them down on paper. That's all.
But you're not writing.
I have to voice them into the microphone. No, I'm not writing a thing. I mean, please, I have a ghostwriter.
I mean, Billy wrote the takes.
Not a ghostwriter.
And Billy wrote the takes. You're right. I mean,
It's just a writer.
Yeah, it's Dan Stanza.
Sounds like someone's dictating what you've said.
Well, no, there are things that I've said. Like Kevin Durant does not have, rings in
He
my
may not know
personal
what
record
dictating
book.
means.
Right, I don't.
My understanding
Why
of
can't a book just be a book? I wrote a fun book. It's a nice
Exactly.
book. Why can't you guys
You
be
ha-
happy
you
for
have
me,
not
written
support
the book.
me?
No one has written the book
my
yet.
my understanding of this book is you have a take. Kevin Durant has no rings.
Yep.
And then you say, Mina Kimes, why is that wrong? And then she writes a chapter as to why that's wrong. So you wrote questions.
It was actually Stan Van Gundy who wrote the rebuttal to that chapter.
No, important.
Yeah, my rebuttal is already in, by the way. I wrote my chapter.
And it was great. Thank you.
welcome. Oh, you
Yes.
read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
By the way,
Yeah.
in your defense, and this happened with The Pride of a Lion, which you can buy wherever books are sold.
Well done.
It's very common for
You
pre-sales.
picking your nose while saying well done.
I didn't pick my nose.
I mean,
there's like a little zit right here on the corner of my nose.
Ooh,
and
I
it
hate
hurts.
those.
Yeah.
I have one of those too.
It hurts.
Yeah, one side. Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
Has it washed upon you, Dan, that you are an actual writer and you're surrounded by two people that are working on a book or have completed a book? You are not one of those people. One of them is picking a zit off of his nose, and the other one's Greg Cody.
It hurts. You know that spot I'm talking about, though.
I do. It's a painful one.
No, I just want to say that's common in publishing is for a book not yet written to be on pre-sale. So what's happening with the Stugotz book is not an anomaly.
Bad Boys 4 wrapped up filming here in Miami yesterday and is going to be in theaters June 7th.
It's insane.
That doesn't seem like enough time for that to go. Is this the first thing Will Smith is doing since the slap of Chris Rock? It doesn't seem like enough time, and yet I'm listening to what Stugotz is saying, and it's reminding me of he doesn't have enough time for this to come out in May, and he's writing nothing. Either of you ever ridden a mechanical bull or, and I doubt you've ridden an actual bull, but have you ever been enticed in any way to ride a bull, mechanical or otherwise?
I haven't. I like watching people fall off the bull, but I have not done it myself, no.
No, I haven't either. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like anything that jostles me or makes me dip and swerve. And, there's a reason I'm not a rodeo cowboy,
I think I've done it once. Yeah, once in my life I've done that.
In a bar in Davie?
Not in Davie.
They don't have one, actually. Shocker. It's an
Yeah.
upset.
They used to.
Did it in a bar
they-
that was
not anymore.
by my house that had that.
But
I
Dan's
did it
right,
in Vegas. There's like some country bar in Vegas I've done it at before.
But Dan is right. Davey used to have one. Roundup, I think.
Yeah, they don't anymore.
Yeah.
Nope.
I feel like it's a legal liability.
Well, you're about to see why, because the UNLV coach, the football coach, Barry Odom, was raising money for his football program, and he doesn't really ride the bull. The gate opens and he falls off the bull and concusses himself. So go ahead and watch this so that you can see what's happening here, because he lasts 1 second, 2 seconds.
And he's done.
No, he got hit hard. Like that
Ow.
is, and he's
Wow,
not.
he walked off.
No, but he's not totally there. Like
He doesn't know where he is.
He doesn't know where he is.
Yeah, but he walked off. That's the important thing.
You gotta know who
For a
Okay.
football coach.
All
I
right,
mean,
but
yeah.
you can play that again. And yes, he did walk off scared because the bull, hit him with his horn. Like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, it's just a
Good Lord.
that is not a good idea. You can see that his legs aren't there. And he tried, man. Look at those. What are those called? The things that you wear over
Chaps.
the pants? Those are chaps? I thought
Like you don't know.
I thought chaps were in the back. I thought assless chaps. I thought that was something that was in the back. I
Well,
thought
nothing's
yeah.
in the back of ass.
We can stop playing this. This is like jacked up from
It's-
ESPN back in the
There's
day.
got to be a billion better ways to raise money than riding.
Seriously.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are there a billion better ways to raise money than riding a bull?
The old dunk tank or something. I mean,
When he's thinking of that idea, like there's nobody in his house going, "Hey, Dad, why don't you just have a bake sale? What are you doing?"
I don't know what it would take for someone to get me to ride a bull. Like, I have seen how scared everyone is in the tightness of a pen when they're just simply trying to get the bull to settle down because those things are inordinately strong.
Is this the same thing as yesterday with the Masvidal kick? Like $1,000 Tony would do this for?
I need a bull that's heavily sedated. I want a bull that not only isn't hopping up and down, but it's
Right.
just barely
It's
sauntering.
almost
out of the
asleep,
pen.
yeah,
That's what the bull I need.
Just a sleepy bull.
Yeah, a bull on Quaaludes.
Video, go ahead and just put up Masvidal again, because I've asked Sullivan to try and find the guy, the moron who decided that it was a good idea to take a kick from Jorge Masvidal in a ballroom. Pablo Torre of Pablo Torre Finds Out is about to join us here. And he did an episode about how unusual Russell Wilson is. And I want to talk to him about that in a second. But Pablo, you're coming in as you're watching the Masvidal video here and you saw the Bull video. Who's dumber there?
It's the guy who got kicked by Masvidal, because the most pathetic part of that visually, he's on the floor and he just starts pathetically clapping as if he wanted this. Like it's he's there, and then yep.
And
he's
the
like,
middle
yeah,
finger.
yeah, middle finger, but then it's yeah. Good job. This
Yeah,
is
but
what I
he's
signed up for.
clapping.
I wanted
Very
to
good.
break my leg.
He's
yes.
clapping after holding his leg in the spot where it hurt so much. But I don't know how much you'd have to pay me to get on a bull, because that ride lasted less
How
than a
much do you have to
second.
pay the bull?
I hearing Greg talk about like a sedated bull, though, because this bull here, obviously, all of its faculties are intact. Greg riding a sedated bull actually might be sadder than the guy making the decision.
Not for me, it wouldn't. For the bull, it might be.
It's just sad all around, man. Like a very limp old bull
An
that is
old
being
bull.
conquered by Greg
Yeah,
is
I
somehow even more depressing than the guy who willingly signs up for the active bull who has full lucidity.
Right, we'd be a matched pair, me and the senile bull.
Two limp old bulls.
Yeah.
What did you find out, Pablo, when you went on a hunt for how strange and unusual Russell Wilson is?
Yeah, so the story is about the fact that I've been harboring one of the great details, I believe, in sports media, which is that Nate Tice, writer for The Athletic, son of Mike Tice, former Vikings head coach, was Russell Wilson's roommate in college, and yet he had not been mined in the way that I thirstily, voraciously mined him for information. And what you realize is that Russell Wilson is kind of a guy that all of us knew in college. I wonder if you guys had this guy in college who was sort of totally immune to the idea that everyone around him was cringing at how badly he wanted to be liked, while also being bad at being liked, and also being relentless in his pursuit of being liked. And so Russell Wilson's the sort of guy, Nate Tice told me, where they'd be on the road sitting on beds next to each other in like some Marriott courtyard somewhere before a football game. And Russell Wilson would say, hey, do you want to watch this with me? And he put on the TV, and Nate Tice had unknowingly signed up to watch, alongside Russell Wilson, the college game day profile of Russell Wilson. At which point Russell Wilson turns to Nate Tice and he says, so what'd you think? And he's that guy. That's who Russell Wilson is. And there are many more stories along those lines where Russell Wilson basically becomes, to Nate Tice, this politician that Nate Tice is inadvertently writing speeches for. Because Russell Wilson's trying to figure out, how can I charm, this is literally a story in the episode, how can I charm Dan Patrick? Because Dan Patrick's going to talk to me at this big game we have. And Russell Wilson does not listen to Dan Patrick's show, but Nate Tice does. And so Nate Tice is just feeding him, oh yeah, mention that bucket, mention the bucket, or whatever it is. I don't know the reference, but there's a bucket that Dan Patrick always talks about. And he's like, mention that. And so Russell Wilson is getting fed lines by his political speechwriter, Nate Tice, because that's what Russell Wilson's been trying to do since he was 18 years old.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Who do you like less, the person trying too hard to be liked or the person who doesn't care at all whether you like him or not? Because if I put them next to each other, Draymond Green and Russell Wilson, I think most people, the grand majority of people listening to this might deny that they care about being liked, but I think most people like to be liked, crave being liked, which is the more off-putting personality type, because we do not like the sports figure who goes searching for that very much.
Well, I think it raises this question, which by the way, there's a lot of self-loathing in me as I think about how badly I would like to be liked. Let's be clear about that too. I want to just head that off at the pass. But I think when it comes to the idea of what is cool, right? Like, who do we regard as cool in sports? Actually, curious what you guys think. Who's the coolest person in sports? And why is that the case? Because Russell Wilson, to me, is definitionally not cool because he has the thirst, the transparent, synthetic thirst of wanting to be liked so badly, wanting to be cool so badly that it becomes so deeply uncool.
Who is the coolest person in sports? Like when you go through in
Steph Curry's in that conversation, for me at least.
I don't think so. No,
I think he's cool.
No, I mean, you could like him, but I don't think people look at that and say cool. And I think his sneakers hurt him there.
Julio Rodriguez.
You've become a Mariners fan all of a sudden.
He is very cool.
When did this happen? When did you become
Yesterday.
Oh, nice. Name a second Mariner.
Earlier this morning.
Not here to be quizzed.
Mina is doing for Mike Ryan what Nate Tice was doing for Russell Wilson, just feeding lines about teams that he knows nothing about.
No, Mike Ryan has pledged himself to learning something about a single baseball player every day this season.
A single Mariner. As you know, Big M's guy, Trident Sup.
I think Mitch Haniger's back.
You might be trying to trick me.
No, for real.
Okay, well, I'll Google that.
We're going to play a game with Stugotz later, Met or Jet, to see just how little attention he is paying to all of his teams. But I want to play for Pablo some sound here of Dirk Nowitzki on Dwayne Wade's podcast, because I'm really surprised that we are now old enough that these two guys are talking the way that Cornbread Maxwell used to talk about rivalries in the 80s, because once upon a time, Pat Riley, it has been reported, fined players on his team if they helped opponents up from the floor.
He used to be the coolest guy in sports, Pat Riley.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dirk Nowitzki went on Dwayne Wade's podcast, and they basically talked about the competition being so fierce that they could not be friends.
But honestly, I say this all the time. There can't always be friendships during the highest level of competition. I mean, it's just not how it works. I'm old school. I always wanted to win, but there was no love lost there at the beginning. And I remember And the '07, the All-Star game was in Vegas.
Yep.
And I think we were the only two All-Stars ever on record to not shake hands pregame. So there was definitely some cold times.
And mind you, we've never had a conversation to this point.
Exactly.
What is that, Pablo? Is that necessary?
The which part of it is
Any
necessary?
of it. Any of it.
So what I'm curious about, do you guys remember, I thought the real, like, most obvious proof that these guys didn't like each other, didn't D Wade and LeBron make fun of Dirk for being sick allegedly at like a presser, the fake cough thing?
Yeah, and then
walking into the arena.
Yeah, and then he kicked their ass.
Right. So, but what you're asking, Dad, is like, I guess what I'm asking here is, if you go on a podcast decades later to talk about how much you disliked each other, it feels like it kind of invalidates the entire premise of what was cool about your beef originally, which is that it actually was a real thing that you guys genuinely disliked about each other. And now I'm just wondering, I guess the question I'm asking is, well, really, it's if you have a podcast, you can be cool. And maybe the answer to that is no at this point. Maybe the answer is that Dwayne Wade is definitively uncool because he's doing what we do now.
But do you think that generationally this is something like they are now old heads, Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade, and they're talking about longing for a time when there was genuine animosity. And I feel like Draymond is doing plenty in the genuine animosity department. I don't know. I don't know if is it a softer time? Has this thawed, like at the top of all sports? I'm assuming that these guys don't necessarily care for each other in play.
So I thought that story with D Wade and Dirk was that kind of Dirk was this outsider, right? He was this Euro who didn't come up through the system. So D Wade and LeBron through Team USA, through AAU, they got to be friends. And so they had this pre-existing social bond, and Dirk definitionally did not. And it seems like what's happening now, as everybody knows each other earlier because of the internet, because of all of these tournaments, because of AAU, because of all of these sneaker companies and all of that, it just seems like, okay, there is less of that foreignness between them. But I would argue, Dan, when it comes to the question of beef, the beef has simply become less top down. It's not just bottom up. It's like now guys just clearly dislike each other because they don't like that guy, not because they are wearing a different jersey. It just feels like it's been democratized. Like dislike is very obvious to me now on social media, watching games. It's not that guys like each other less. It's that they just like each other of their own volition, as opposed to the executive running my company and the laundry that I'm wearing is telling me that I can't like this guy. It's just changed in that way, I think.
What's coming up on Pablo Torre Finds Out that you're excited about?
So today's episode is truly one of the grimiest that we've ever done. So Rick Pitino is the guy, Dan, who is astride college basketball when it comes to one of the greatest coaches of all time. Of course he is. Multiple championships, lots of that everywhere.
Are you as stunned
what is happening?
Are you as stunned as I am? They're just promoting Hee Haw 3.
Oh, okay.
Are you surprised as I am that he is back in the sport at a level that's legitimate?
So this is the question I had. Not just how is he back, this vampire, as you guys call him on the show all the time, back from Greece and Iona, back to St. John's, this deeply Catholic school. It's not just that. It's why is he being praised all of the time by St. John's, by the priest who is the president of the school, as a role model, as an all-time role model. There's a crazy press conference he's introduced, and the thing the thing that they want to communicate is he's not just the great coach. He's going to make an even bigger impact on the lives of these players. And so the question to me is, does everybody do we just forget what he did, these scandals?
Yes.
The scandals, here's the problem with that, Stu. The scandals that Rick Pitino has had, there's one in particular, the Karen Cipher scandal, which I started reporting in 2009 at Sports Illustrated, which remains the craziest scandal I have ever heard about. Okay? I don't even know what you guys remember about it. What do you remember when I say Karen Cipher?
An abortion and a very loyal employee to Rick Pitino taking the hit on an abortion.
So here's the thing about the loyalty, and this is where the episode today begins and gets a lot deeper than just this surface level. The employee who drove Karen Cipher to get an abortion across state lines, okay, is Tim. His name is Tim. He is he was a former private investigator who then became the equipment manager at Louisville. Tim is tasked with doing that, okay? The thing about Tim is that within a year, he proceeds to marry Karen Cypher. Tim Cypher's last name is Cypher. She's Karen Cypher because of Tim Cypher. They get married, okay? Rick Pitino's putting money into a college fund for their daughter, which they have. Rick Pitino's priest is the priest who baptizes the child. She's around. And so all of the stuff about how she goes to prison eventually because she's trying to extort millions of dollars from Rick Pitino, that is true. Deeply unreliable narrator. But the point is, Rick Pitino has people around him who will do stuff for him that is out of this world. And so the question for me was, who are these people around this guy? And so when we fall into the rabbit hole of the Karen Cypher story, what we realize is that there are former federal agents in there. There are calls to our reporter that I assigned on this story, letters to his house. When we start looking into this, it gets really fucking wild. And it just starts with that Karen Cypher thing and goes, a lot deeper than that.
Pablo Torre finds out he is trying to dig deep into those rabbit holes journalistically. Thank you, Pablo. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.
Stugotz has informed me that he has worked very hard in the lab to produce a top 5 list of top 5 NBA duos, just NBA duos, correct? Not just duos in general.
Nope.
Top 5 NBA duos with the most pressure on them. You may have noticed that the Milwaukee Bucks are playing better. They have figured some things out.
They came back from, down 15 against the Clippers, who, thanks to your endorsement, I put a future on. And I think that's 6 on the trot now for the Bucks. They've figured things out to a degree.
6-0 since the break, yes. Yep.
So Stugotz has top 5 NBA duos with the most pressure on them. That's much different than Colin Cowherd's top 10 list of just the best NBA duos. He might have had that first. Colin Cowherd had first his top 10 list, double the size of Stugotz's, but it doesn't have what Stugotz's list has, which is the most pressure on these duos.
Is this active or all time?
This is active. We are headed into playoff time. We're getting closer. And these are the top 5 NBA duos that have the most pressure to go out and win a championship.
I don't know if you guys saw this the other day. I thought I was watching a replay. Do you guys remember that shot last year that Jokic took where Anthony Davis was coming out to him and he was rolling to his left and he just threw it over his head and it went in? He did it again against Anthony Davis the last time they played against the Lakers, where he's taking these I don't know if people are going to know this reference, but Jamal Wilkes had a jump shot where he just went from one ear to the other
side of his head,
behind his head to take a jump shot. And Jokic did that again to Anthony Davis at the three-point line, moving to his left, making a three late in the game. It's asinine. It's an asinine shot. It is not a good shot to be taking under.
That's something we've never seen.
Did it go in?
A big man being
Good
able
shot.
to do that. I've never been. No, that's stupid.
He's like the greatest player I've ever seen, and he's not even the most freakish center in the league because of Wembanyama.
I've been trying to outlaw the wrong guy. Really, it's Joker. It's not fair. You can tell me with a straight face that that's the greatest basketball player of all time,
No.
and I'm not going to push back on it. I'm not going to do the MJ or LeBron thing. I think you have a valid argument when you see what he's done recently.
You know.
How old is he?
Jokic?
Yes.
He's got to be 38.
I don't. He's in his late 20s.
He's 29 years old.
What?
That's Giannis's age.
And he doesn't.
And Embiid's age.
And I know the athleticism is a big part of his game. He's a professional athlete, but it does seem like he's going to age with grace.
I mean, how much athleticism do you think he's going to lose?
Right. I mean, he doesn't. He is really athletic, especially for his size. But I'm with you.
He already has an old man's game.
Is he moving quicker at 29 than he appreciably quicker than he would be at 35? I don't know.
I believe that he is less of an injury risk than anyone who's ever played his size.
I mean, his arms are perpetually bleeding
because he's unathletic.
That's true.
I believe his lack of athleticism, he's not going to sprain an ankle because they're always planted firmly on the floor.
No one's sliding a foot underneath him.
He's going to play forever.
Flat-footed jump shot.
Are any OLI, Stugotz? Are we going right to it?
I just got a straight 5, Dano.
All right. Number 5.
LeBron and Anthony Davis. I know they won one. They won it in a bubble. Do me a favor. LeBron didn't go there to win one championship in a bubble. He didn't recruit Anthony Davis to come there to win one championship in a bubble. Win one outside the bubble. Plus, you're chasing father time.
I mean, they already won a title this year.
Yeah, no, in-season, you're right. IST.
Some people objected to what I was saying yesterday, and I'm wondering with a different group here today whether you guys object to LeBron James saying that everyone was rooting for him to fail since he came in the league and expecting him to fail. I thought that was him misremembering things, but many people, and I believe their memory goes to 2010. It doesn't go back to the beginning. I don't remember people rooting against LeBron or thinking that he was going to not meet any expectations, rooting for him to fail before he got to Miami. That's not something I have recall of.
The one group that really didn't like him before Miami were Kobe fans. Because people were anointing LeBron as the next MJ, and they felt like it was skipping over Kobe when LeBron, very obviously from the moment he walked into the league was going to be up there as one of the best players at 18 years old. that group genuinely hated LeBron during that first stretch of his career. It was once Kobe got toward the end of his career and LeBron was now with the Heat that it was a new group that
There's
hated him.
been no announcement, but the guard has changed. Like, it's over for the old guys. Like, I feel like it's done. And we still talk about it as if it's not, because you're going to need them to lose in the playoffs. But I feel like the guard in the league has changed, that the young people have taken over, that it's not a mirage that OKC is the 1 seed in the West.
Yeah, but do you really trust the likes of Minnesota and OKC?
No one does.
Because all these lower seeds that have done it before are looming, and they're starting to play better. Like, the Lakers are playing better
I trust the
basketball right
field is what I trust. I don't trust these old guys to be able to rejuvenate themselves and take on all youth through the playoffs without it showing. Number 4.
Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. No one believes in you. No one thinks you're going to make it to the NBA Finals. Anthony Edwards, show up on time. You want to be next. You want to be the guy. Then go out and win an NBA title.
Isn't there more pressure on Gobert than either one of those two?
No, Gobert's got no pressure.
Well, as a
Stop it.
playoff
no one cares if
performer-
Gobert wins. No, get out of here.
No, but that's like his whole thing. He gets played off the floor every postseason, and you have him as, again, a favorite as Defensive Player of the Year. They're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They need to stop a center in Jokic, and yet you could argue it's like an Edwards-Gobert duo there more than Towns even.
My list.
Number 3.
Jimmy Butler and Bam.
That's a good one. I like that.
It's the only thing not on Jimmy Butler's resume. He's made it to the NBA Finals. He's made it there twice. Go win an NBA title. It will change Jimmy Butler forever. It will put him in a stratosphere that we thought Jimmy Butler would never get to. To be the number 1 guy on a championship team? Are you kidding me? Go do it.
I'd argue he's already won in every single way.
Well, he hasn't.
That Jimmy Butler is now of reputation, of marketing, of in every way that he's already won and he doesn't have to win anymore.
He's also one of the coolest athletes that I could think of.
Number 2.
Giannis and Damian Lillard. A lot of guys have won one, Giannis. You got to win a second one. And Damian, you wanted out of Portland, and you got Milwaukee. You wanted Miami, but you got Milwaukee, and you haven't stopped complaining since. You're playing with one of the greatest players we've ever seen in Giannis. You have Doc Rivers as your head coach. You're 6-0 since the break. Go to the playoffs, win a title.
He hasn't been complaining.
He has.
He has not. Okay, good talk. Number 1.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Generational team. They're exceptional. Do me a favor, both of you. I'm tired of both of you. Go win an NBA title because you clearly have the best team in the NBA. And in that sport, best team usually wins NBA title. Go do it.
Did you forget about the Clippers?
Nah, Kawhi has no pressure on him.
He would have to
doesn't.
make the duo
That's
James
not the
Harden and
two.
Paul George.
That's not the two.
It's
I
them.
was
Yeah, but
talking
we
about.
jumped down his
Harden.
throat.
No one cares about
We
Harden.
jumped down his throat for Gobert.
Harden, Schmarden.
Okay, I'm glad we talked about
That's
it.
a
My
boss.
list.
That's a
Devin
boss
Booker
list.
and KD.
I like that
I
list.
mean,
Have you guys often seen
KD's a good one.
a coach like Steve Kerr leave a $300 million player unguarded? Have you guys seen a lot of that as a defensive
Pay $35 million
strategy?
over 2 years to do that.
I know, but they lost by 50. But go ahead, Jaylen Brown. Take all of the shots that you want. You like that list, though, huh, Cody?
I do.
This is
I,
the new and improved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.